Hello and welcome to the DM's Travel Book Club, a guide to the planes. Each episode we take one of the planes of existence outlined in the great wheel cosmology in the role-playing game Dungeons and Dragons.
Don't know what that was. Let's try and do some signs.
Ooh. It feels like we're like on the like a proper party tour now. We're we're ending our bit of Lanzarote, etc., which is a very UK reference. I mean, it's Lanzarote, but just going on a big tour essentially. But with me, as always, is my travel buddy, co-host Hamilton. Hello, Hamilton.
Hi, Fiona. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I think after last week's very lovely plane, we're doing very well with the Beastlands and getting back to nature and being sort of like, breathing in, being the best Bear Grylls and Steve-O we could ever be. I think it's time, we need to just...
Well, like any good lads on tour, one of us has ended up in jail.
Yes.
Basically.
Pretty much. We've taken a big U-turn and gone straight to possibly one of the worst places ever. And that's what we're doing for this sort of section. Obviously, we've done Planes of Chaos, Planes of Law, and now we're in Planes of Conflict. And so we are going into our first sort of evil-defined plane of conflict, which is Carceri. I believe that's how you pronounce it. I've listened to many different videos saying different things.
Really? What else have they said?
Oh, Carceri.
Carceri.
No, I think Carceri, hard C. I believe according to Chris Perkins, it's like incarceration. So carceri.
Yeah, that's how I got it. Incarceration, Carceri. Yeah,
Carceri.
Chris Perkins, he knows.
He knows.
He makes the D's and D's. So
you got to listen to the person who makes the D's and D's.
Well, if they make the D's and D's and they know how to say the C's and C's in Carceri, no, that's
Carceri. Oh well, you'd think that, and then they don't produce enough pronunciation guides, and we have to rely on my bad pronunciation. As we know, I'm just terrible for it. But yes, Carceri, the prison plane, and I guess. How can I put this? I mean...
come on, here we go. This is Fiona's,
no. I guess
Fiona's Isgard.
Yes, this is my sort of... We all know we're going to have favourite planes and less favourable planes, etc. Ones to take people to. I think my issue is that Carceri, here we have it, the eternal prison, the great cage, the red prison, not a nice place to be. But for me, it is just incomprehensible. I've sort of talked before about my... I struggle to visualize things quite a bit, and this plane feels like it has a lot, because obviously it doesn't want to, this is where all the bad people go. The people who have power, they are banished to this place, and they can't get out. Cool concept, really cool idea. All these and all the different layers, which I'm sure we'll go into, all very cool ideas. But then they add on these other things and this and this and this, and to the point where I'm just like, I just can't comprehend it, and also feel like it's a bit of it's just wasting stuff. I think if you just kept it as a clear sort of like, here is the prison plane without all the extra stuff on it. And what am I talking about when I say extra stuff? I'm talking about this it's sort of described as an inescapable sort of string of pearls, this idea that there are these orbs in this plane that sort of go on for infinite miles, and they could be very close together or very far away. Very cool idea, this idea of just lots of little planets that are very close by somewhere. But then on top of that, you imagine each planet is like a nesting doll with each of these six layers
the planet has a mantle and the core and the other things. I forgot.
The crust.
The crust, that's it, the crust.
No, I know, it's like, you've missed the crust. Yes, exactly like that. It's like different layers of that. But then the layers can go on different orbs. How do you get to... And it's just like, this is, for me, too complex. The way I sort of described it as, imagine as one of the, a facility for imprisoning people. We have them in every country. That you have them all over the country, so those are the different orbs, different prisons, as it were. But then in each prison, they'll have the similar sort of layout of like, top level, various inmates, etc., maybe solitary confinement, etc. Just because you're in one solitary confinement in one prison doesn't mean somebody else in solitary confinement is in that same place. It's in a different place. That is literally how I've had to figure it out for myself. I appreciate that as such a...
so if you want to get from the sixth layer on one orb to the sixth layer on another orb, you cannot just travel from the sixth layer in that orb to the other sixth layer. You have to go all the way up to the top layer, to the top layer of the other one, and all the way down. Unless you can find a
portal or
something. Or a portal. So if
Yeah.
you want to physically do it, I kind of like it. I kind of think it's like, I'm with you. I'm like, it's not the best idea. I don't think it's even actually that greater. It's not even that cool a concept, because it is a bit like, well, it's just planets. But I think it was like, they probably just didn't want to do a maze.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what they've done. And I think it would have been actually more fun if it was just an infinite maze that then had layers within different mazes, like, and had like maybe like because so when we do get onto the layers, they've each got their own physical condition. So maybe the mazes could have just had different physical attributes, like a 2-dimensional maze, and maybe even like, so you have a 2-dimensional one, so you actually become a flat cube or something like that, and then like a 3-dimensional one, and then maybe add in like a 4th-dimensional one that has like time effects or something like that. I don't know, something fun.
I think I agree with that. I think the thing for me is that I've now got the nesting doll planet orb thing, but then it talks about, and it's this thing that the orbs then on different layers are different, like different distances apart as well, and I was just like, so that's the thing I struggle with, is that describing it wise, and it also feels like we've seen these things before, like you said, that it doesn't feel like a very original concept, whereas if you just have one big plane with 6 layers that each are terrible rather than being split up, but maybe they need to have these.
So wait, I think of it. So if you are on the lowest layer of one orb, you don't see the outer layers, you see the other orb, but it's very far away. So that's what it is. So it's like, so when you're, so you can physically get to them. So when you're on the 6th layer, you see, imagine that all the other layers become invisible. So you have a smaller circle, and then you see the other sphere.
Yeah, much further away from
which is much further away from you. And then if you went up a layer, you would only be on the 5th layer, and you see the 5th layer, but it'd be slightly closer to you.
Slightly closer.
Yes. So that's how it works. So it's like, it is like a 4th-dimensional thing, because it's like a tesseract in the sense of like, you're moving inside the space, and when you're on that other layer, you're on a 3-dimensional representation of a 4-dimensional space. Then I guess, because you're cutting it. You then cut all those planes at that 3rd dimension, at that level.
Yeah, I guess then it's like a nesting doll of these strings of pearls, but each layer is like has a one-way mirror.
Yes,
that you
exactly.
Look at.
So when you get down to the 2nd layer, you don't see any of the 1st layer. You see only 2nd layer things as pearls, and that's why it's darker when you're on the lowest layer, because they're further away from each other, because they're the only things that produce light.
That makes a lot more sense.
I only just realised it by talking.
No, but that's helpful. So, but that's the thing. I think now we've discussed that. Cool idea.
There you go. Home, we figured it for you.
We figured it out for you.
Probably
it took us,
we knew that.
Oh, we knew that. Yeah, I know. But then at least, again, having to describe that to players like that took. I mean, this has taken me the best part of the day to try and even visualize the first bit. So, again, I know each to their own, etc. But I think having a good description of this place, if people want to go to it, or like if they're doing research about it, just to be aware of it.
I recommend anyone finding the maps, which we probably would have shown by now, but it's definitely worth finding the maps for these planes, because they do definitely at least help somehow visualize them.
Yes.
Pandemonium, not Pandemonium, what was the one where you can think of? Is it Pandemonium when you can think? No.
Limbo?
What's the one with Ultimate Chaos? I forget it now. We always get confused between Pandemonium and Limbo.
There's Limbo, Pandemonium, and
Limbo, which
Abyss,
is just a mess. So you can't visualize that, because that's anything. But
but essentially, this idea of the prison plane, it comes with sort of various defining features itself. This idea that this is where the detritus and scum of the whole multiverse is sent to atone for their crimes. It's interesting, because again, it paints a picture of that these people are evil and they're so powerful that they can't, even in death or even to sort of punish them for the crimes, they have to be sent to this place. And what's interesting is it's like this, I don't know if it's like a proper rule or if this is like the thing that goes here is that when you're imprisoned here, the way you get out is that you have to become more powerful than whatever put you in.
Yes. Yeah.
So
which I love that as an idea, and I think that's such a great automatic adventure, isn't it? It's like you're playing Final Fantasy VII and you need to do the grind bit of it to level up, basically. So it's like the only way you're going to get out of here is if you're at level 10, which is really basic. But you could make it that you've just got to best this person who put you in there, and that's basically it. And how you could make that less of a physical challenge and a mental challenge. So you could make it so your players have to best them at, I don't know, a game of some game of chance or something like that you could even like take it out of D&D. It could be like, you've got to beat me at poker or something like that. Do you know what I mean? And you've got to best them at a game of poker, and then you could as a group play poker or something.
Oh, adding like another game mechanic.
Yeah,
I love that as an idea.
Yeah. Or Cambio, which is my new favourite card game. If anyone's ever played, have you played Cambio?
I've heard of it. I've never played
really
it.
Good
So
fun. Recommend it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
But as a result of this idea of driving ahead, like trying to best whoever put you here. As a result, all the creatures here, they're going to be bitter and resentful, but always be looking for an opportunity to one up each other, so that you can't trust anyone here. No. And I think that's the key thing, is that no matter what what NPCs, what minor characters you put in front of them, whether they seem super funny, go, I will help you get out of here, all they care about is their motive, their agenda, which I think I quite like as a thing, because they know ultimately there's no hope for rehabilitation. That they've gone past like atoning for stuff. They're just going to selfishly get their own means, as it were. And there's something about that. I think that's the first time for me whereas whilst I've struggled maybe with the geographic features, or maybe the sort of like, this is what this is with Carceri, the motivation for these petitioners, these creatures, is so clear cut. It's like, no matter what the players say, ultimately you cannot be persuaded from the fact that you are going to hand them over, you're going to beat them in a battle, like all these things, because you want to get more powerful to get out.
That's it, really. And it does say, like, as well, that if you end up there, like, because if you take yourself there, then you'd have to best yourself. It's only if you've been sent to there by someone. So like, if you do get there, it does say that the people of the plains are have so much hatred for anyone being able to leave, that even if you've gone there and you don't have any of that need to overcome, they're going to hate you even more, so they're going to want to fight to keep you on there, so they guard all the portals out. And so even if you haven't got that sort of tick box you have to tick, you've also then still got to get past some sort of series of guards at any key portal or anything like that.
And that is a fascinating thing. It feels very much like this sort of Jeremy Bentham's Panopticon, this idea that everyone watches everyone else and keeps all that sort of thing, which again, for a prison like playing, pretty cool. There's this great line I love, which is like, hatred runs like a deep, slow-moving river of betrayal greater than the heavens above. Like, that summarizes
such good writing in this.
That hatred runs like a deep, slow river. Like, beautiful.
Yeah, it's really good. It also just reminds me of like prison movies, where it's like, it's their last day or the last week, and it's like, they're just, in the movie they're gonna get shanked, aren't they? Because it's like, they don't. There's there's always that feeling of like that. You're about to get out, so something's gonna go wrong. Do you know what I mean? Always like the policeman on the it's my last day on the job before I retire, sort of thing. But I think in the prison thing, it's that sort of that sort of not want. Sometimes it's portrayed, I think, in Prison Break, that there are people who don't like in Prison Break that they're trying to escape. They'd rather they had to stay there and suffer with them. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and there's no way, again, if you were travelling through the layers and all that stuff, there's no way to sort of tally which orbs and layers have been visited, because like you were sort of saying, it can get very confusing, because you're further away, stuff like that. So again, that idea that you could be trapped on a different orb and separated from your party and stuff, but again, it's just that sort of feelings of hopelessness, betrayal, all those sort of things. Like, it's a desperate time, and as a result you turn into this stuff. And there's a few things later on which talks about how you might the actual conditions, the living conditions of this may actually change, like gives you some pluses and stuff, but also makes you more scheming, more like the actual like personality of the land itself, of the inhabitants, because this is what they do to survive. This is their way of thinking it's getting out of there. So just interesting. But I can't move on. Well, obviously I know we're going to move on to the 6 layers, but this is the thing I do want to mention right at the top. So you might be thinking, what kinds of prisoners would be sent here? What kinds of people? I know we've said like, just evildoers. They're so powerful they can't contain a multiverse. Well, a big example which they talk about throughout is this idea that the Titans, like the Greek Titans, are trapped here. And even if you just watched the Disney film Hercules, and haven't any idea, you know that these are these primordial forces of nature, 11 of them, I didn't realise that they're in double figures, that will destroy the earth because they are so powerful and all that sort of thing, and they have been sort of reprimanded and stuck here, and it's again very, very cool, and they're
Cronus,
home sort of
who was a leader of them, is not a very nice person. He didn't do anything very nice thing to his father, and there's and also I always think of like Kronos from Chronos Trigger as well, which is that really cool game. But yes, they're not fun. They're not fun, folks, and they're going to be bitter and twisted because they've been sent, imprisoned here by the Greek gods at the dawn of time, basically, before. So, as it says, there was a saying, wasn't it, that you may be able to get them on your side, but but how far would that,
would that mean anything?
What would that exactly? Yeah. What does that?
Yeah. And I know we talk about proxies a little later on, perhaps, but what's interesting is it talks about any proxies of the Titans. They can be created and destroyed as the mood suits, because they don't care. And that's the thing. All they care about is looking for a way to escape the plane. And as soon as they've achieved that or achieved something towards that, then that's it. They don't have any use for you anymore. There's no reward. It's very similar to, I think, how we feel about certainly how I feel about like demon cults. It's like, we're going to bring demons into the world and then we will get our reward. And you're like, it's a demon.
We said that when we were talking about the Tenari before. It's like, why do people get involved with them? Because they're never going to win, aren't they?
Because they're on the source. They're not thinking straight. There's no reason. They're just like, we can get more power, even if temporarily. So same thing here. It's just like, if you want to be a proxy of the Titans, good luck. Is the answer to that. I guess other than that, before we go on to the layers, let's talk about if we wanted to transport, if we wanted to get from one orb to another. Let's talk about that, because obviously there are things like portals. It's also
every fifth orb there's every exits, so you have to travel probably from one orb to another. So
but even then that's confusing because all the orbs may look very similar and you don't know if you visited one, etc., so you might lose count. Again, another sort of prison thing. And I think, and also, like you said, it's very easy to come in but very hard to get out, so these portals are blocked off by guards. There's some really cool things about the portals themselves. They can say like, they're going to different planes. They look different depending on what plane you go to.
If they're if they are taller than they are wide, they lead to the grey waste. If they're wider than they're tall, then they lead to the abyss. And if they're equal dimensions, they lead to the outlands.
Yeah, I quite like that.
If you escape, you're not going anywhere great, apart from the outlands, if you're lucky. If you can find an evil
if you're lucky.
It's like, I've got out of Carceri. Where have we got to? The abyss! Yay!
Yeah, absolutely. So but there are other ways. So if you were going to try and get from one orb to another, there's you could take a ferry on the River Styx, but of course that's always at a price. That's a usual go-to. Let's face it. There is the Ferros sled, which I see that as
Ferris sled. I just think like Ferris, like iron, is how I saw it.
Yes, absolutely. For me, the way it worked, and I know they don't work like this. Before you say anything, I was picturing sort of Dodgem cars. This idea, because it's like the
Dodgems meets Father Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yes. So it sort of repels slightly by the plane itself. It's almost like moving along on a cushion of air or force, essentially. And then at some point you jump onto the sled and then jump off. But you were to be able to go into the next orb. But unfortunately, each orb is sort of sled is for each layer, essentially. It's layers, isn't it? Not orbs.
Yes, it's per layer, because it's about, what I gather, it's because it's to do with the lodestone reflects to the tailor to a layer, because it repels itself against the gravity. And so what I imagine is then if you then go to, so on the biggest layer, it's going to have the biggest amount of gravity, so it needs a powerful lodestone. But if you went to the other one, I just play it that you just float up. You keep floating,
that's what I was assuming. Very much like you lose the gravity of one and then get to the next one and then the gravity shifts and you go back down.
I always thought when I was thinking of them, I just play them like they're taxis, a taxi service, but like a bit like the River Styx in a way that you have to, have to sort of pay your way, if you know what I mean. Like you might have to
Yes.
do, like, because like the river Styx, you have we haven't really talked about it, but Morelos, they may take you somewhere and eat your soul, basically. So they're not unless you pay them enough, they will then take you to where you want to go. If you pay them more, they might take you quicker. So I think you could do a similar thing with the sleds.
And I like that you've sort of made an analogy between these horrible creatures and like maybe black cab taxis from London.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's kind of what. Yeah,
what do you mean it's 30 quid? Well,
yeah, exactly. And also,
you saw Buckingham Palace.
Yeah, you saw the palace. But also, like, it makes me think of. Have you seen Scrooged?
Bill
Murray. The taxi driver from that just feels like the sort of taxi driver that I'd have, like a New York with a half-burnt cigar in his mouth. Sort of like, I don't know. I think it could be fun.
Yeah, no, I like that idea. I now imagine that all these sleds do have some sort of driver that is akin to that now as a result. So that's one way. But the other way, which I think both you and I were like, yes, we're going to use this way, is why not travel by the wondrous sort of journey that is a skin balloon. This idea that a hot air balloon that's made from the hides of Carceri's creatures, which is at the mercy of the wind, and it might not withstand a lot of serious damage because let's face it, it's patchwork essentially. Again, getting very much like I can't remember what they're called in the film now, but Hellraiser vibes. It's sort of like all that sort of stitched up thing, and
very very nice. I just an arm flapping on the side.
Pretty what was it in Bristol that they have the hot air balloon festival, but you could have like two arms and it's like ears.
Hello. If you get a giant's hide, it's maybe like more like you can maybe make it in one or something like that, So it's like, I don't know. It's a bit gruesome, but it's kind of like come to see the sights of Carceri and fly on a skin balloon. It's just kind of advert.
It's the only way to travel. I think that's the most gross body horror of this plane. I'll be fair to that. So you could easily get rid of that. But I think it's great. I love that idea of hides and having different like pelts and stuff like that. Maybe it's like it's different textures, and describing that as well as a DM would be quite fun, I think. Anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about it. We've danced around the subject so much. Let's talk about the 6 different layers of this plane. Right. Okay.
Right.
I did try and look up the.
I'm not going to say anything.
Good. So we have. I'm just going to say them. I'm going to say them in order, and then from now on, just refer to them as first plane, second plane, third plane, etc.
You can't do that.
I'm sure I'm getting it right. So the first plane, I believe you pronounce it Orthrus.
Orthrus, yeah. Orthrus.
Yes, Orthrus, which is the land of bogs and canals. This particular plane holds politicians and traitors to their country, those who have lied to gain power or positions, smooth talkers who won't take no for an answer.
Yeah, basically all politicians. So
yeah, and so I now have this idea that they're all most of the House of Commons are now in a stinking bog. Maybe they're all taking Parliament as the horrible smell and the grime goes up their knees.
You might find a wild bojo in the swamp.
Oh no! A random encounter. Oh, not him. The second layer is Cathrus.
Yeah.
Cathrus, the oozing jungle, full of barbaric folk who have responded to their animal instinct, which they didn't need to, and gave in to savagery. Yeah. Which is interesting, because obviously on the Beastlands, which we just covered, that's very much encouraged. But maybe it's like, but only if it's proper to do so.
Well, I kind of see it as like they gave in to savagery, like in an evil way. So it's kind of like, instead of like becoming one with nature and becoming sort of like primitive, or whatever the term might be, like more primal, I guess is the worst. But then this one is more like they were in a fight and they just raged out beyond belief and completely ripped someone to pieces or something like that. It's kind of how I see it. Like they were just, barbaric in the sense of just like evil Vikings.
Yeah. No, I guess it's just again, it's that sort of thing going for. It feels like too many parts that for me don't necessarily click into place just yet. That's the only thing I say for that.
No, I agree.
The third layer is Minithus. which is of stinging sands. Imprisons the greedy, hoarding something in life that would have benefited others around them.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to even look behind me of various books, things that have not been opened.
You do have a dragon hoard. You do know that, right?
I do, and I know there's that Horizon Forbidden Dawn box sets over there, so we'll
which have still not been opened.
No, you can tell how shiny they are on this side. But yeah, this is like cold deserts and cutting winds that never cease, and they carry stinging particles of grit that can sort of almost like fillet skin from bone. So it feels a little bit sort of like pandemonium in the sense that there's these winds that never cease, but they're not screaming howls. It's just horrible.
Now the strong trade for the labour of their companions and the blessed shelter of a hand-dug pit in the sand.
Ugh. No thanks.
Yeah.
The fourth layer, Colossus.
Okay.
Colossus?
Colossus, yeah.
Colossus, I think it is. A mountaineer's dream, and the worst nightmare of those nightmare of those who live there. This idea that this place, these huge, big, mountainous, like almost like sheer cliffs, like rising high into the sky, that they defy imagination. And here, in this layer, liars and cheaters of the world, and those who would put forth a lie when truth would have been just as easy.
Yes, they lie for the sake of lying as well. So it's the sort of like.
Now, I feel like I have in the past, I think I have said a lie when the truth would have been fine, but sometimes the truth you need to explain a bit more, and it's a tiresome
that's
thing.
not as easy, is it?
But I feel, judging from this, I feel it's
that's
like
what it means.
You should just have told the truth and just got on with it, because ultimately I know if you tell that lie, it's worse in the long run.
Okay, I saw it.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's I guess so. I saw it more that it's probably just people who lied, like the boy called Wolf. Or
yeah, they always lie. Just for no reason for it. Yeah, no, I definitely see that. But here as well, I'm thinking like because a mountaineer's dream. Like, I'm not a fan of like tall things in general. But I'm thinking of like the people who go bouldering, all those huge big things. I'm thinking the beginning of Mission Impossible 2, Tom Cruise. I'm like, Tom Cruise would love this place. I would hate it because I was just like, there's nothing for me. There's this idea of like rope bridges. With shrieking howl winds that are crossing like in a treacherous way, and I'm like, this sounds like the worst Go Ape holiday.
Oh, Go Ape, yes.
I'm just like, no, this sounds dreadful. I wouldn't. No. So yeah, I don't think I would have done well on there. The fifth layer, Porthathus, is the home of flesh melting black snow. So this, for me, this layer, it feels like the alien layer. This is. You are in a different world at this point.
Yeah.
Everything else I can imagine, like, there's some route in, like, on Earth we have these places.
Yeah.
Here I'm just like, flesh melted black snow. This is this acidic stuff. So this layer is the home to the shallow and self-absorbed, as well as those who have refused aid when it was well within their power to give it. Oof. Like, I don't know. I feel like I do set into that shallow and self-absorbed thing. So I'm like, well, maybe this is
Fiona, the person who was saying earlier on our phone call, I am amazing.
Now that's out of context, but it's true.
It is out of context. I'm joking.
But the way it's described as well is like this, like shallow ocean and the black snow.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, again, I know it's been back on our Netflix and stuff like that, but Stranger Things, this idea of like water and this blackness, just for miles and miles and miles is. Oh, I like that.
I like the sort of shallow water and just seeing no one apart from just like huddled in a cloak and this person just walking in it. It feels very much like what we were talking about earlier, like Limbo sort of graphics. You could imagine, couldn't you?
Yeah, Limbo and Inside the games. Yeah.
And sort of that and then the fact that these disfigured beings that maybe were like so absorbed with their own beauty, but they've been like acid burned and like skin sort of flayed from this endless thing, and it's sort of like. And maybe it's that you could play. I don't know. Maybe it's playing off that sort of reflecting pool of Narcissus. That sort of idea that they can ever see themselves in this shallow water, but they're like afraid to look because they're so like, because the beauty that they cared for so greatly is now gone from them.
It's gone. I love that idea actually, and I don't. does this happen on another plane? And maybe because we've done so many of these planes now, I'm confused.
Yeah, no, they all get it. Yeah.
Like, obviously on this plane, it talks about, like we sort of mentioned it a little bit, like their motivations and stuff. The longer you stay here, the more driven you are to be like, I need to one up people, and you become very untrustworthy. But that doesn't necessarily reflect on what you look like. I can't remember if on another evil plane that, because it's like that idea of magic showing its true self and stuff. I don't know if you actually change your physical appearance unless it's like the Beastlands, which we've talked about, or if you get to the 9 hells and you turn into larvae, because that's because you're all awful, whereas
there's
here,
well, obviously the petitioners do, yes, and there was some they become one with the earth eventually in one of the I don't know if there is
Archaron. Is that Archaron where they become like one with the junkyard and they become like stones and stuff? Yes, we were right. We were right. It was Archaron with the second layer with the scrapyard. But anyway, I like the idea of the gradual, like, this corruption. There's some this is happening rather than like, and it's different on each layer. Maybe those traits of being a liar, being So I'm thinking like this idea of maybe the politicians on the first layer, they have like a black tongue because they just horrible, like they're trying to tell you sweet truths, but all you can see is this blackness in the mouth.
Maybe they always tell you like what you want to hear, like that's what it is. So if you say like what you want to hear, it's not true, but it's what you want to hear, like, oh, it's only just down the way, it's just down the way, but it's not, it's miles away, but it's what you want to hear.
Exactly. And then the final layer, Agathos, this other sort of an icebound layer with almost no lights, where the petitioners are frozen into the ground, essentially, and they are
false friendships.
This feels like obviously all these people that circle. It's almost like a circle of hell. Like, what is at the worst of it? And it's like it's this idea of false friendships, or just using friends and never like having a true friendship with somebody. It's always for false. I hate false friends.
For their false friendships cannot warm them, and the ice is constantly grabbing at their exposed flesh.
I'm like, false friends, they can die on that
They
level.
can die in there. They can
betrayed
freeze
me
in the ice.
But
they have to keep moving. They have to always keep moving in this ice to keep them warm. It's kind of like.
So you like this idea that somebody's just carrying on, etc. Maybe with like a smile frozen to their face because of the frostbite and stuff.
I quite like that idea. Then I was thinking back to that politician one. Is that if they tell you only what you want to hear, the trick is to ask them to tell you the truth. Like, as in, all you have to do is to want to know the truth. Is the trick. So your player has to, like, I don't know how you could figure that mechanically, but the role play of it would be that you have to then. Your player has to overcome the desire for it to be close, to know what the truth is, to be happy with the accepting of the truth.
It's like I guess it's like that when we know now with the Feywild stuff. It's like, oh well, we're going to trick me here, so we need to be very careful. So having that stuff in place, like no one's trustworthy here. Try and playing around with that role play. But yes, Agathos, home to false friends and betrayers of secret confidences.
Oh. People who goss. Oh,
gossips. So that's another layer for me. Yes, but there you go. So these 6 layers are on all these different. The same layers are on all these different orbs, all different. And I like how obviously the environment's different for all of them, and it's almost like, well, these people go here, these people go there. Like a prison's for the worst people, and I feel like you could easily swap those people out and put the worst for what you want as your DM or anything like that, and
and make more layers up as well. There's no reason why you can't have more layers of this hell. And it is interesting when you say that layers of hell is that it does, like, we have the 9 hells, but it definitely doesn't, and it does have imprisonment there, but it's very much like, it's not like the traditional sense of like heaven and hell, like if you're bad you go to hell. This sort of is that, isn't it? This is the sort of, this is where you go if you're bad, sort of place,
it's not bad, you are the worst of the worst. There's no redemption for you at all. Like you think going to the 9 hells is that going to battle is bad, but if you've really screwed up, you are you are worse,
vilest of the vile.
Absolutely. So yeah, for me, I think the only thing I'd add is obviously we've got all these lands and layers. They're all very ground based in a way, apart from the mountains one, which sounds horrific. I would just have one where you're just falling through the air for eternity.
Oh yeah.
Who
would be there though?
I don't know. People who talk in the theatre and cinema. That's my layer of hell. People who have a question at the end of class, and you like everyone's ready to go. Oh, I just have a question. Well, it's not a question; it's more of a comment, and you're like, should have said that much earlier. It's 2 minutes to go. I'm not referring on real life or anything just now, but.
People who don't move away when a green light goes at the traffic lights.
What else? Oh, people who can't use self checkouts. And
yes. People who skip a queue.
Oh, there was a queue.
There's a queue, and they just slide in the front. Or I only want to do like one thing, and then talk to the person at the front of the queue for 40 minutes.
Yep.
What
right,
health
okay.
are they going? They go to like, they go even worse. That's not just falling forever. They need something else.
They just, as you can, as listeners and viewers can see, we're all going, what else could we do? So yeah, we highly encourage you to put your own prison plane up and your own various torches.
Yes, please let us know of your prison planes and who you would put in them.
Have a layer which is just you're surrounded by 5-year-old children constantly. All asking for attention.
Are we there yet? You're in a car and you never get there, but you're always being constantly asked, are we there yet?
Yeah. And then you're like, and ask you a question. Oh wait, well it's because of this. Why? Yeah. Why?
The best win for that is just to say why back. You go, why?
And then
why?
they just have their own. Oh no! Yeah, that's how you defeat that layer.
Yeah, that's it. Just have to say why back. Why not?
And you just have a 5-year-old crumple in front of you, and you're like, "I've done it. I've solved."
But then you're so evil that you because you made them cry.
you then plummet to another plane.
Yeah.
Anyway, as you can tell, you can have so much fun and changing these planes around and stuff like that. Yeah, it's interesting because I guess now that I'm thinking about it, like there's clearly a lot of fun you can have with this. But like I said, for me, unless I think maybe I would tailor it these layers because obviously to your world.
I think it gives you a good bare bones. Like that's what it does for something. And actually, some of the other stuff that you like, the places that it shows you, they're kind of cool, but they're not as like super exciting as some of the others that we've come across. I'd say, but I don't know. Unless you think otherwise. There was one in the other the primer that I just was going to open.
Please.
So I've just got that open on another book. Which I just like the tone of it, which is Gallows Home, but other than that, I thought the others were a bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. Up to you. What were you like? What was your?
Yeah,
what did you think
Gallows Home was an interesting one. So yeah, just describe this is on the first layer, and this idea that it's a way out, but to go there, it's treacherous anyway, and it's at the bottom of this huge big sort of valley-esque thing, and there's a bony carpet, so if you fall, and you're just gonna be like onto them, so that's not great. Yeah, bone shards everywhere. And it's not just like little bone shards, it's like big bone shards and all different ones. And then there's like a village that's been made out of the bodies. And the bodies are mostly giants and they're hanging from the ceiling. And so it feels very much like, again...
We have to put a content warning for body horror on this one, aren't we?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think, like I said, as with all of them, this is the one that's the most like, this is gruesome to the point of it is more visually like, this is their flesh. Compared to the Abyss, I think, because the Abyss was like, lots of eyes in this layer, all that sort of thing. Here it's like, no, these are like you said, like this whole village is a hanging corpse of various bits and pieces. It feels like that whatever tree village we talked about with elves that were
the winged elves. Yeah.
Was that in Beastlands, or have I made that up?
No, that was the last one.
Phew.
Yeah.
Yeah, now does this get to the point now where we've done so many planes, they all are starting to merge again a little bit into one for me, and I'm like, there's one cool thing. Yeah. Was that recently, or was that well at the beginning? So cool.
Yeah, I know. There's obviously ones that stick out, and I think everyone can figure out what those are, but they...
Macarnus.
There are others that don't. That just sort of merge a little bit, don't they? I think the Arborea Arcadia thing, I just have to go... One of them's got the bangers. that's it. And then I kind of get myself there, like, into my mind. But they all sort of merge a bit.
I mean, for me, I always just forget. I've told you this before. I swap around Archeron and Arcadia because there's two sides of it, even though they are two completely different.
Yeah, but the name is very similar. And Pandemonium and Limbo, I always just go, one's the wind, one's the crazy. Both of them are
one's wind.
One's the wind, but which one is it? Pandemonium. That's it. It's just
Yeah.
So,
I know the whole point of this obviously is it's a primer. It's a primer for a DM as well. But even us clever hosts who do the reading beforehand, we're like, no, we still get them wrong. So that's quite it's quite comforting, I feel.
There are 16 of them, so it is fair that we sort of overlap it in their mind, because most people will take someone to one of, like, in a campaign, you're probably only going to visit 2, maybe 3 planes. I'd say, like, unless you're really going on a Planescape super adventure. But even in that, like, some of the, if you look at like how adventure modules for Planescape, like even doing like a 1 to 10 event adventure, you're probably hitting maybe 2 planes maximum. So you're not really gonna, if you're a DM, you should only be, you're probably gonna come here, maybe you watch all of them, but really you're coming here for 1 or 2, I imagine, like, to find out about.
And this is the thing, because obviously with Carceri, it feels like, well, again, why would players want to go here rather than they've been put here, right? Yeah. Instantly, I think it's like, well, it's a prison break.
It's a prison break, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of, is that this is the reason why you want to come to this place, or why you've been sent to this place, rather than, because I feel like, oh, you're being punished by the worst of it. Oh no, we're innocent. No, I think that it's because, again, it's going to just be very hard, because everyone you trust is going to be awful. Whereas if you go in and go, we need to rescue this thing we need to rescue X to help forward our plans for this, or because a god told us to, right, that we're going to use all of our methods and fight our way in and fight our way out. And I think that would just be really interesting. You have your Ocean's 11 type style of heist, in and out. That sounds fun.
The other one I would say is, if you were getting involved in the factions, which is something that we could get onto with this, and you are either on the sides of Harmonium or on the sides of the Revolutionary League, knowing most players probably on the side of the Revolutionary League because they sound much more cooler and much more fun. That sort of sense. So the Revolutionary League, who are the anarchists, aka the anarchists, who are a cellular organization, one of the factions in Sigil, that are all about tearing down authority and removing governance and about freedom of people. And they work in cells. So you could have it that your group is a faction, one of the faction cells, so they only know themselves. Surprisingly, don't trust anyone, so fit in perfectly already in Carceri, and that's where their home is. And they have this place, the Bastion of Last Hope, which is a huge, humongous toad, which is like that they exist in. They have made a home inside a toad.
Horrible.
Why not?
But
it's all very lovely, and there's basically the Harmonium are always trying to break in and identify people and tear down the Revolution League, because they're all about part of the rules, regulations, and order and all that stuff. So you could have a bit of that as well. Like you could have you're going to go and help the Revolutionary League by going to a giant toad that has a city inside. I mean, that's fun enough for players, I think, in some respects.
Absolutely.
It could be something in that, I guess.
I think that's right. Yeah, if you're really playing into that factions thing, which again, and on our sibling podcast, we talked about Ravnica recently, or in the distant past. This idea that, if you're making it like, hey, because again, obviously it's like, why would players go here if it's not necessarily a Planescape thing? But if we're doing, hey, everyone's part of a faction. Okay, let's do this, this, and this. Yeah, that could be quite an interesting one. Like, we're sending you to get rid of this outpost. Or go investigate its weaknesses, etc.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be quite cool.
Yeah, that was all. That was the only thing I could think of otherwise, but yeah.
I liked how, just to jump back slightly, so you talked about Gallows Home briefly. The other place they talked about in the primer is a place called Fetaphon.
Yes.
Which I just like the description of it as, it's a town like a great abscess. And you're like, tasty. But yeah, this idea that these are, this whole town hangs like some sort of bloated spider, and there's rope bridges and tar everywhere, and it's the best sense because if you are running across, it'll just cut the rope bridge and you will sink into the tar and slowly drown. Essentially, it's the idea that all these villages and stuff, that parts of the town is sinking into this tar, and again, you can have so much fun with the description of corruption and things going wrong, and you are being attacked, like you are doing a, not a stakeout, what's it called, a siege, much bigger than the stakeout, obviously, a siege, and you're having to cut off bits of the town and having to decide, well, we're going to lose the town square, that's gonna, and this idea that you were running for it and you go, oh no, Stephanie's left on the other side of the bridge. I'm so sorry, Stephanie. Your sacrifice won't be in vain. And Stephanie's like, what the hell, guys?
That's so mean. My fun little idea in this one to add was that I'd have my players roll a d20 if they get over, depending on how much I like the player and the DR, is that they will find themselves transported into a whirlpool and they'll end up on the Forbidden Plateau.
Oh yeah.
Because tar pits,
Beastland.
and they'll end up in the Jurassic World because of tar
and they
pits.
look out and they go, "What's going on?" And then they say,
That was just because it made me think of the tar pits in the prayer.
I love that. That's really cool. Let's talk.
Also, I love all my players.
Yes, you do. Wink, like wink, blink, smile. Tony Blair smile. Let's talk about magic conditions. Interesting, I think. This essentially, it's like catch as catch can. Ultimately, if you're not 100% sure what to do, the most evil result possible or manifests itself, like some sort of look of it. So, for example, and essentially, magic is used for selfish purposes. As a result, so for example, alterations. So just assume that it's gonna look awful. Whatever you've done, it's gonna so that imagery of it looks good, or it manifests itself in a way that is hostile.
Yeah.
So again, it's the selfishness. It's just reaching out. Everything's untrustworthy. Conjuration and summoning. It's like a nasty surprise.
Yeah.
You summon a creature, but it's not bound by your spell. So it's just like, what do you want? And as a result, you have to give it some show of good faith or a bribe. Which if your players aren't ready for, that'll be fun. It's like going, you rang, and then just being like really cross about it, because it's like having your cat get you up at 3 a.m. and you're like, what?
A divination though.
Yes.
Seriously, you have to sacrifice one of your comrades. So, that's an interesting one. Stephanie,
get over here.
No, that's why you're cutting the thing. I need to use the divination spell. I'm sorry.
We just gotta use your blood. Yes, this idea of a sacrifice of a comrade, which makes clerics, I think, unpopular, or divination clerics very unpopular around people. They don't have too many friends.
You won't be standing nearby them. It does say healing spells function at half their normal power. I thought that it does say that if the magic is used for selfish purposes, then it has, at the cost of others, function maximum effectiveness. I would say if you use lay on hands on yourself, full beans. If you use it on someone else, it doesn't.
Yeah.
And I think healing spells on yourself should use full. Healing spells on others don't.
That's how I would rule it for 100%, because it makes sense. Because it had this similar, again, I can't remember which plane it is. It had it similar on a different plane with the idea of like, oh wait, you always cast healing spells one lower than the other, which made sense for that plane. But here I'm just like, there's no real reason why, as long as it's selfish.
Yeah, exactly.
It's on the self.
If you use one of those spells where it's like a life drain spell, I can't think of one off the top of my head, but there is a couple of necromancy spells where you drain life from others. That would definitely be full potential. That was all, but I think that was the only one that I had a question on.
Yeah, it says I was gonna say, I think it is called life drain. But spells that can create undead or cause damage are much more efficient. So I think that it's super effective on these planes, because it's like dealing offensive damage because you're trying to save yourself. I think that's just because we had similar things for other magic there. So ultimately, again, not too much like out there as well, but I think what I would allow the players to do was to be more descriptive of the spells rather than just like, I cast magic missile, and I'm like, yeah, but what does it look like? Does it have? Does it stink? Is it just rats essentially? I don't know. It's horrible hands that are decaying as they fly, and like you got the.
I think that's the thing that these planes do as well, and we said it a few times, isn't it? Is you really want to get into the vibe of the place and apply that to all of your magics and everything. Like it's always a great signaler for like using it to explain how the plane's affecting people, because magic is so inherent to them, I feel. So it feels that's really a good way. Yeah.
And on top of that as well, quickly looking at the politics of this place, like, and again, not so much because obviously these there are many deities here that make their home, but again, the proxies thing is like, you know, it happens or it doesn't happen because of the mood. But it does say that this whole plane was a prime staging area and one of the battlefields of the Blood War. So people are already like untrusting of visitors. It's like, oh god, are we going to get recruited into the Blood War as well? So again, another thing would be like, you know, you're in Carceri for whatever reason, whether you've been in prison or not, and then someone goes, I can get you out of here. Just sign up. We're enlisting people for a special top secret mission. And you're like, oh, thanks, Lord Kitchener. And then you go, oh wait, oh no. This seems to be
to the Blood War.
This seems to be battle. So again, it's that idea of like conflict in the background as well. So it's not just prison, because I think there is something else. You could also have something else there. If you were like, I don't want to do prison stuff per se. There's just a fleeting thing in perhaps. But I only just remembered that.
One of the things we haven't talked about is the Gereliths.
Yes, because I watched an Australian man talking.
Gereliths, mate.
Gereliths, yeah, Gereliths. Yes. This is the not like an overwhelming force on us. They just seem to be. I
like, love the name of their leader though.
Oh, the free
sided
something.
Father and gods of the Gereliths. A Pomps.
A Pomps, the free-sided. A Pomps. Again, easy one to say. I have no problem with that.
No, it's just a great name. Because and three-sided because there are three types of Gerelith, which are the lowest level, the Farastu, made for the rotting bodies of those who had the misfortune to die on Carceri. So more body horror. There's a lot of body horror in there.
Yeah, zombie-esque is what I was thinking on there. But but it can have different limbs and stuff. They want to be like
what they called flesh golems as well, sort of thing.
Oh yeah, flesh golems.
Yeah. Kelubar is the second one, promoted for Rastu. Ranks when a Pomps decide time to bring in new blood. Then the Shator or Shaggy Gerelith, the most powerful and most intelligent. So I'm assuming that he's three-sided because he has three expressions of the three types is how I saw it.
Yeah, all three aspects in that way. Yeah, I mean, again, when I ever think of three-sided, it always I used to go, like something like from Meccana's, like a Modron per se. Obviously, I know it's not like that here, but
maybe they are a Modron.
Oh no. But I think there's not much in terms like we know that there are three varieties, and I appreciate this is not this is not the monster manual. Yeah, so I assume it goes into more detail there, but it just feels like there isn't much to differentiate them in the book compared to other creatures and other things that we've seen. Like, obviously, I know Modrons, of course, they get a big sort of deal in Meccana's, and it's like, here are several levels of them, and it's briefly described. Yeah. But here...
they have this weird triangle thing, which is like, they have a triangle they're given to, which allows them to access their knowledge, so they learn what feuds they may undertake and what's in the world. And you could steal one, and they sound interesting, but it's like that's all it says. And you're like, okay,
yeah, it's like
there's a triangle.
It's like a hive, it's like a hive mind sort of necklace essentially.
Yeah.
But again, maybe like a big heist going. Oh, it has all this knowledge. We can probably use it for something. Stealing it, and then having the full wrath of this, like 900,990. Like there's 999s. Three types of 3,000. Whatever. You're like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh,
but they double when the Blood War is at its peak. Yeah.
I guess the idea of it is supposed to be like, rather than like they're overwhelming, there's like, there is a finite number of them. And it's like, but the players aren't going to sit there and count them.
No,
they're going to be running away from them. But
I don't know when that information is useful. Apart from it just gives you more information, but it doesn't really change the feeling of this. I mean, like, you're not going to try and overtake them all, are you? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess they just, like, for all I get is that they don't fight amongst themselves. They kind of work together. So, but they just wander Carceri, causing random acts of destruction, and just, you know, it's just that essentially.
Yeah.
And
that's it. I do think there is interest. I mean, I'm looking forward to learning more about the Yugoloths in Grey Wastes. Yes, Grey Wastes. That's where they're from, isn't it? Yeah. And so I think, I think they seem to have, from what we've talked about them in the past briefly, because we've used them in, we talked about them in our Urban Encounters one, didn't we? I think I used them. I forget if it was me or if it was you. But you fought one, didn't you, as well, in your campaign? You played in the Yugoloth, the Foxy one.
Yep. Yes. I have bad feelings. Arcanoloths, yes, I remember them.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And they seem to have much like, they have a really cool lore behind them, but these just seem to be like, they got these triangles and they wander around and there's a number of them. Yep. Okay.
There's a number of them, and they also don't like Yugoloths. And you're like, okay, well.
And it says you don't know why.
Oh, great.
Thanks.
Like I said, it just another little piece of information which again is open for the DMs to change, etc. But it doesn't click into place for me. So instantly I'm like, okay, there's a bit of information that I guess is useful to know, but no one's ever going to ask me like, how many of these creatures are there? So, oh well, they're an overwhelming force, but there's not as many as you think because well, actually,
it's a bit like that, isn't it? It's a bit of nose buffing, and I think that's everything really that covers that's like critical to this plane. There's a bit of text, but as you said, it tails off at the end, doesn't it, in this document?
I mean, like, the only other little things I was going to say, so obviously other encounters you can have apart from these horrible creatures is like, you know, imps, quasits, hordlings, and larvae, so similar to what you see in battle. But I forgot, I've just seen the note here back to that the Bastion of Last Hope. If you look very carefully in the services part, there is somebody called Blind Trust, the Face Doctor. And they can swap your face or make you look like anything you want to. So again, I'm thinking face off. I'm thinking like getting out of here.
I want his face. No more drugs for that man. Anyway, sorry, I love that movie.
But he, I don't know if it's he. Sorry, they suffer from like just going blind drunk and doing their own experimental things. So again, you can have that body horror and stuff like that, but it feels like a desperate thing to want to go to a face surgeon like that. And I was just like, again, that maybe that bit from Brazil as well was the person with the stretchy face.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the Jim Broadbent of that. Yeah, so I just thought that's a really cool NPC that's hidden away, and I was like, that's very cool. I wanted to, just do a quick shout out to that because I think the name is great. Blind Trust, who is a doctor who is visually impaired anyway, but also does a terrible, horrible thing which you might find useful if you're doing a heist, if you're doing a break-in and out.
I like it.
If you go to Rome.
No, that's cool actually. Yeah, I forgot to mention that is a cool thing to have mentioned. I think the other one that you just reminded me that I was thinking of things in there because I always have to make note of any dragon on any plane.
Oh, of course.
There is
Night Dragon.
Faluser. Or Faluseri, the Night Dragon. A beautifully shining silver black dragon, so debased that his wings don't even carry him.
Oh, that's so sad.
So sad. But he competes with a pomp for the dead of Carceri. It doesn't give much. I didn't find any more information about them. Did you? I didn't see any more.
No, I didn't. I wondered maybe if again, I know we should have looked, but like the adventures maybe had something in them. But I didn't check because again, we're not focused. You know, make your own adventures. The final thing I want to talk is, of course, I always check what the optional rule is from the DM's Guide for 5th edition. So I'll just quickly read it. So it does describe it as the model for all other prisons in existence. So I quite like that. This idea, it's almost like a Room 101 type deal, I think now. And then I think about it like this. But the optional rule is that it makes sense. No one can leave Carceri easily. Magical efforts to leave the plane by any other spell other than a wish spell simply fail. Portals and gates that open onto the plane become one way only. Secret ways out of the plane exist, but they are hidden and well guarded by traps and deadly monsters. I mean, that's it. We've already covered it to an extent. That's the rule. But I did mention it, and we hadn't talked about it too much. Some of the places, I think it is where is it? It's one of the giant villages that you talk about.
It's
is it that...
what's it called? The giant.
Stedding.
Stedding. That's it. Sorry. Yeah.
I think it's Stedding. I'm not entirely sure. So this is on Cathras, the oozing village.
Mm-hmm. The Stedding is where you get paranoia when you gain that, basically, but you as long as you can. Well, that seems to be naturally not. See, when you go in the holes, it causes Bookmind to turn to that of prey. That is, he starts to jump at any noise, losing any fighting edge. So it means that if he's planning to attack during a round, he goes last, so you lose last, and that lasts for 1d4 after leaving the Stedding. That's what I've got from that. I think it's the other one. Because there's two, isn't there? Because I like there's the two powers of the giants, and one of them is foregoing his intelligence on purpose. And then, so I think that's that one. That's what I'm getting. But yeah.
Anyway, I think that you could make it so that these villages, they're like, they give you some sort of boon whilst you're staying there, but at the same time, here's some roleplay flaws that you should add to it. I know we're all like, and one more thing, also, there's this thing called the Vault on Colossus, which is the free law-giving factions of Sigil created a place to stash inconvenient prisoners, which I love. In fact, even the law-giving ones are like, I can't. We'll have to just put them there. Just don't say anything. But it's this idea that they might not even get to this place. There's this idea. There's an auction block where you could be sold off to fiends for blood war fodder, or as the Malorites.
The Harmonium are really not nice people, are they?
No, they're not.
They're up to no good all over the shop.
Who knew? Shock! I am
horror
shocked
that the lawmakers, Anyway,
they're not all good, but if you're sold as like blood war fodder to fiends or to the Malorites as targets for their hunts, which is like, fuck, this is dreadful.
But the guy who runs it, Thaman, isn't it? Staccato Thaman, which I think is a great name, is unaware of this.
Yes.
But it's being run by the Mercy Killers, who are so in the factions. Harmonium are basically the prisoners, the guards and the police. Ish. The Mercy Killers are the judges and the executioners, and deal out punishments. And then the governors are the lawmakers. Basically, that's how it sort of works. So those are the three.
Fair enough. So but that is Carceri, the prison plane. So ultimately, we've said this throughout. I know. I feel like it's some cool ideas in there. Sometimes I'm like, it takes me a moment to get it, but I definitely think this would have the biggest rewrite of the planes we've had so far, to make it a plane that would be interesting to do to break into or to escape from, but making it like personalizing it for my players exactly like a proper Room 101 style, depending on the layers and stuff like that. So, that's
a good shout, actually. The Room 101-ness of it. I think, as you said, and allowing people to have fun with making up their own planes, I think is good. I think that would be a good thing to do.
Have them fill out a questionnaire about what's the worst place that they could put you in.
Well, for your character, as they say.
Yes, exactly. But until then, Hamilton, where are we going to next? I'm tired of prison. Visiting hours are over.
Visiting hours are over, are they?
Yes.
Oh, well, okay. And we've somehow made our way into that crevasse, which the where that you could get through the portal and out. Which I've always thought is like, well, because the Titans hid their sword, didn't they? He hid the sword in the... Maybe that's where it is. You could play some of that. We are off, Fiona, to the pastoral splendour of Bitopia, also known as the Twin Paradises.
How exciting. Very excited for that. That's going to be very different to this miserable plane.
Yeah, it's quite a different one. I always thought it was quite interesting. It's a little bit Halo-like because you can see the other side. It focuses more on gnomish. There's a lot of gnomish culture in there, which is interesting, which I think we haven't really touched upon at all in many of the other. I'm trying to think. The only time that gnomes might have come up was in Pandemonium, I think. Possibly.
possibly.
But there hasn't been a lot, basically, of gnomes really spoken about in any of these other places. So that's kind of interesting as a pantheon that we can get into. Other than that, it's all about hard work.
Oh, I just no.
Not hard labour, but hard work. But good, honest hard work, as they say.
Oh no, not that's the worst.
That's the worst.
There's people who like actually enjoy it.
Oh no.
Okay,
So,
I'll book up for that one. All right,
Yeah.
I'll book up for that one. But until next time, folks, you can, in the meantime, subscribe to our YouTube channel and catch up on previous episodes and VODs of not only this podcast, the DM's Travel Book Club, but our sibling podcast, the DM's Book Club.
Yes.
And I'm sure there's, as I just point randomly around the screen, there's going to be links that come up, and you're like, those sound really cool, and you're just going to click on those.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Until next time, folks, have a wonderful, time.
Morning, day,
morning,
evening,
day,
night,
evening.
weekend.
I don't know how I'm going to end this.
I hope you're having a lovely time wherever you are, and you join us for our pastoral travels next time.
Yes.
Next time.
Next time. We'll see you next time. Thank you very much. See you.
Bye.